Today I make my NFC predictions for this NFL season. I'm Nathan Gustafson, and this is Clutch Time. So we'll get things started with the NFC East, where I think the Eagles are going to handle this division. They're the best team by far. Carson Wentz is the best quarterback in this division. Anyone who thinks Dak Prescott is better than him is not in their right mind. The Eagles have a dominant offensive line. They control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. I expect them to come out and dominate this season, finishing around 11-5, 12-4. I have them at 12-4, winning the division. And second, I have the Cowboys at 9-7. Look, Dak Prescott kind of makes them limited. They're a good football team. I think they probably have the best front seven in the NFL and a top 2 to 3 offensive line. But Zeke holding out is definitely going to hurt them. Dak will be unable to carry them for stretches. They're going to be in pretty much every game because of their defense. I have them around 9-7, 10-6. I give them 9-7 here. I wouldn't be shocked if they made the playoffs. I think they're a borderline playoff team. That's about what you can expect from the Cowboys this year. The other two teams in this division are horrible. It really sucks seeing Eli Manning just a shell of his former self. He's very bad now, and the Giants are going to have another struggle-filled season because of it. I have them around 3-13. They're not going to be a very good football team. Same goes for the Redskins, who, outside of having probably the best safety duo in the NFL, the rest of this roster is just poor. 3-13 for them is also about right. All right, the NFC North, which I actually believe to be the best division in the NFL, I have the Vikings winning it this year at 11-5. Last year's struggles reflect very negatively upon Kirk Cousins and Mike Zimmer that they were unable to win football games because they have excellent players at all levels on defense. They have arguably the best wide receiver duo in the NFL in Thielen and Diggs. They had Dalvin Cook, and just the names, the talent they have on their roster, Danielle Hunter, Linval Joseph, Anthony Barr, Eric Kendricks, Harrison Smith, and Xavier Rhodes. There is no reason for this team to not be winning football games. I think this year Kirk Cousins gets his crap together. I think they finish around 11-5. I also have the Packers at 11-5. This is the best defense that Aaron Rodgers has had since he won a Super Bowl. They bring in Preston and Zadarius Smith, two edge rushers that are greatly going to help this defense, along with Rashawn Gary and Kyler Fackrell. That's a fun name to say. I think they're going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback for the first time in a long time. Young corner Jerry Alexander is excellent, and even though their offensive weapons are maybe a little bit subpar, it's Aaron Rodgers, and you know they're going to put up points. The Bears I have at 10-6, which actually is third place in this division. They're kind of eerily similar to the Jaguars going into last year, coming off a season where they surprised some people with some phenomenal defense, but their quarterback limits them in terms of what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. I think that I would be a little bit cautious. I don't think they'll take the massive step back the Jaguars did. I still think they win 10 games because of their defense, but this is definitely a team to be cautioned with. And in last place in the NFC North, I have the Lions. And the Lions, in a lot of divisions in football, I could have them competing. I think they take a step forward. Matt Stafford returns to his 2017 self, not 2018. He was awful last year. I think he returns to his form. I think the Lions take a big step forward. They bring in Trey Flowers. Matt Patricia has another year to implement his defensive personnel and strategy into this football team. I think the Lions come out a much better football team than they were last year, but ultimately playing in this division is too tough. I have them finishing 8-8. All right, that brings me to the NFC South, and while I think the Saints will probably take a step back, I think there'll be a little bit of a hangover from the playoff loss last year to the Rams. I still think they win the division around 10-6. This is a really good football team. Alvin Kamara is going to grow even more into a player with Mark Ingram out of the picture. He's going to get more of a share of the carries. I think that's a good thing for this team. We've seen it with Saquon and Christian McCaffrey playing a incredible amount of their team snaps. At one point, Christian McCaffrey went on a 6-7 week stretch where he played 98% of the snaps and was fine. I believe that Alvin Kamara can be the same type of impact player and really not need to come off the field. He's going to be outstanding. Their defense is still really good. Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore. There's some holes in the secondary, but the Saints come out as a 10-6, 11-5 team and win this division this year. And second, I have the Panthers. The Panthers are the other team in this division that I can see making the playoffs. I really like Cam when he's healthy and when he's making good decisions. He's a very talented football player. I just wish he could find some consistency in his game. The one year that he was able to do that, he won MVP. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best hybrid players in this game. There's no route he can't run as a running back. The way he impacts the game is outstanding. He is arguably the most valuable running back in the NFL. And I really like the Panthers' offense this year because of those two and the creativity and speed they have with Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. On the defensive side of the ball, I love their front seven. The two things holding me back on this team are the health and inconsistency of Cam and this awful secondary that the Panthers have. But if they were to make a trade, bring in a corner, bring in a safety, just something to make an impact on their secondary, and if Cam were to be healthy for an entire season and actually play with some level of consistency, this team would be a serious threat. But just because there's so many question marks on their team, I have them finishing around 9-7. I have the Falcons finishing 8-8, and this is pretty simple. I don't believe in Matt Ryan. I think he's arguably the most overrated player in the NFL. This team is just somewhat unimpressive. I really like their skill position players on offense. But with that being said, their defense was horrible last year. A lot of that had to do with Deion Jones being out. He comes back. Because of that, I think they win. I believe they were 7-9 last year, maybe one or two more games that Deion Jones is worth, but this team has gotten older, not younger. And I don't see much success this season for the Falcons. That leaves me with the fourth place team in this division, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I actually think they're going to put some points on the board. Bruce Arians is a great coach. Jameis Winston has a big arm. Mike Evans is a top 6-7 wide receiver in the NFL. With that being said, this defense is simply too horrible for them to win football games. I have them finishing around 3-13. All right, that brings me to the NFC West. I have the Rams winning this division. They're one of the best teams in football. Sean McVay is the second best coach in football. Jared Goff has taken steps forward every year he's played in the NFL. I think they're going to dial Gurley back a little bit, and he'll actually be more valuable late in the season. I think they're going to limit his touches early on, which will be a good thing for this team. We've seen the effect that Cooper Kupp has on them when he's in the game against not in the game. They get him back at the start of this season. This defense is still going to be really good. Obviously, they lost Ndamukong Suh, but they do have the best defensive player in football in Aaron Donald. They bring back Marcus Peters, who's an outstanding young corner. Littleton really emerged as one of the better middle linebackers in the NFL last year. The Rams are still going to be really good. I have them winning this division. In second, I have the Niners. The Niners are sort of my surprise team. I have them making the playoffs. I'm a firm believer in Kyle Shanahan. I think he's an offensive wizard. Jimmy Garoppolo comes back. This offense is going to be more explosive than it's been this century. The 49ers are going to be really good. A lot of people didn't like their offseason. I liked it. I like the addition of Quan Alexander. He's going to be helpful on their defensive side of the ball. And their pass rush is going to be phenomenal with Nick Bosa, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Dee Ford, and Solomon Thomas all rushing the quarterback. I see good things for the Niners this season. In third, I think the Seahawks are right about a 500, 8-8, 9-7 team. I like Russell Wilson a lot. I like Pete Carroll a lot. The rest of this team is just not very good. Their offensive line remains subpar. This is the worst weapons that Russell Wilson has ever had. I don't believe Tyler Lockett is a true number one receiver, although he's a great deep threat. I think they're going to feel the loss of Doug Baldwin. And I think that this defense is going to take another step back, just like they have every year the last 3 years. That Seattle Seahawks defensive dynasty and the Legion of Boom is dead. I think Russell Wilson will still keep them afloat as an 8-8, 9-7 club. But that's about it from them this year. And the Cardinals I see is kind of similar to the Bucs. They're going to put some points up. They're going to be fun to watch. I think Kyler's going to be electric, but it's hard for me to see them winning too many football games. I have them 3-13 this year. All right, so for seeding, that leaves us with the two teams getting buys is the Rams and Eagles, both at 12-4. I have the Vikings at 11-5, and the Saints at 10-6 as the other two division winners. And my wild card teams as the Packers and Niners, with the Bears missing the playoffs. This is my big upset at 10-6. Still a good football team, but they missed the playoffs. And the Cowboys, Seahawks, and Panthers all finishing 9-7. But look, any one of those four teams could make the playoffs, snag a wild card, and I would not be surprised. I'm picking the Niners to sort of emerge from that group, but I wouldn't be shocked if any of those four teams made the playoffs. They're all good football teams. This is where the NFC kind of differs from the AFC. I feel much more confident about my predictions for what teams make the playoffs in the AFC. I think there truly is 10 good football teams in the NFC this year, but those are the 6 that I'm picking to make the playoffs. And in the wild card round, as I jump into what will happen in the playoffs, I have the Vikings beating the 49ers in the first round. Kyle Shanahan is going to have these guys ready to go. They're going to have a good football season, but I don't think they're ready personnel-wise to match up with some of the powerhouses in the NFC. Like the Vikings, if Kirk Cousins comes around, this team's going to go at least win 1 or 2 playoff games. Their roster is simply too good, and he has to turn it around at some point. It's kind of now or never for Kirk Cousins. I think he does it this year. And then I have the Packers upsetting the Saints in the first round, going into New Orleans and beating them, because I really believe in this Packers team this year. I really believe in Aaron Rodgers. He's a top 6 to 7 quarterback ever at worst. He certainly has the chance to, make me think of him as being even higher than that with a couple more impressive years to add on here at the end. He is an absolute wizard with the football, and finally he has a defense. Look, this offense, even though outside of Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones, their weapons are kind of iffy, it's Aaron Rodgers. They're going to put points up, and finally he has a defense that can actually stop opponents this year. All right, that sets us up with a divisional round matchup between the Eagles and Vikings and Packers and Rams. I'm picking the Eagles to beat the Vikings. I think they're the best roster in the NFC easily. I like Doug Peterson. Carson Wentz is going to be an MVP contention this year. While I like the Vikings roster, I don't think they're ready to play the Eagles. I do, however, think the Packers will be ready to play the Rams. That is an upset pick. I think for the first time in a few years here that a wild card is going to make the NFC Championship game. That being the Aaron Rodgers-led Packers. I think they match up well with the Rams. I think they can outscore just about anyone in the NFC because of Rodgers. And they, like I said, passing the ball and pass rush is huge in today's NFL. The Packers have 4 good pass rushers and the best quarterback in the league. I think that sets them up for success, and they make it all the way to the NFC Championship game this year. But at that point, it would simply be too hard for me to pick against the Eagles. I think this is just the most complete team in the NFC, especially in January if they have home field advantage, how important it is to control the line of scrimmage, and just how well the Eagles do that on both sides of the ball. Lane Johnson, Jason Peters, Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett. These guys are simply too good. They dominate the line of scrimmage week in, week out. We're going to see more of that this season, and I'm a big believer in Carson Wentz and his ability to lead this team deep into the playoffs. He has something to prove that he earned that job in Philly. I think it's pretty obvious the talent gap between him and Nick Foles, but a lot of people don't see it. A lot of people think that Nick Foles should have been their guy. I think Carson Wentz comes out, pounds his chest a couple times, shows the whole world that he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and really comes out and dominates the NFC, reaching a Super Bowl with himself this time and not Nick Foles as the starting quarterback. And I think that the Eagles will represent the NFC in Super Bowl 54. All right, that's going to be it for us today. Thank you for watching. Make sure you tune in to our next episode, which I'll be releasing pretty much immediately, where I give you my AFC predictions, followed by my award and Super Bowl predictions. I'm going to get all 3 of those videos out to you today. Thanks for watching.